Yeah, I'm just recording now, this morning, just to continue from yesterday. My name is John WANOA, and I'm putting together a class action case against the government of New Zealand, and I have named them and photographed them for the separate cases. They have committed crime, fraud, corruption, which you'll see quite clearly. They have not contested any of the affidavits I've put together for the past 6 years, totally ignored them, but in this case presently I can use those now to back the case up. I have compiled just a recent case against Chris Finlayson. He's the Maori Treaty Waitangi negotiator and settling their claims. You'll find that most of the historic evidence used by the Crown is not true, in some cases fabricated, as is the Ngāti Whātua case here in Auckland. I'm doing the history for the Manukau claim. So that was Mohi Manukau before he died, and that stretches back at least 6 generations or more, back to the time when the British first came here and settled. We're only going on evidence written by the British UK government, and not so much the New South Wales government of the day then. What happened was, in about the 1830s, the Australian colonial government was under the UK British upper house of Lords directive authority to make government, and so they brought that government here by force of a gun and set up in the Bay of Islands and set about selling the land that they hadn't identified through the UK government on whose land it was. So the UK government said, buyers beware, you purchase at your own peril. And so that's what happened. The British government warned any new buyers of land. Even till now it still stands, buyers beware. Identify the natives title first. That has not been identified until now. Another claim has come through with the MOAI statue. That is clearly a mana whenua, rather than tangata whenua. Tangata whenua is a group of tribes and hapu that have settled after the First Nations, or if you can identify the sovereign of a country, it'll be the first one they can identify they were here first. So the MOAI is clearly being erected by the New Zealand government at Lyell Bay in Wellington as proof of claim that he existed directly to East Island under the Polynesian title. So that MOAI was built by my own family, royal family, who came from Raiatea Island, and they went across to East Island, especially to build those big giant MOAI. So that clears that side of the title up to the seabed and the land of this country. Anybody got anything better than that? You can put it in the affidavit and challenge that. But I'm saying the Crown has horribly got it wrong as far as them settling Maori instead of MOAI. So they must talk to me and UK government now, identifying such title exists in the British Queen Elizabeth II Great Court. That's my court, by the way, for here, for the public of New Zealand, to state their case. So I'll just, looks like the video will turn off in a minute, and no, it's not, it's carrying on. So I'll continue. So that's a graphic case where the government has confused people in saying 1 minute the Crown owns the land, and then it says the public of New Zealand owns the land, and it never ever did say Maori own it. They will never ever say that. They prevent the Maoris from going on the Super City Council in Auckland when they have a right to, and they ignore that because they don't want Maori to have power. In other words, they are the result of the MOAI DNA title to the land, and they can't even get that. So we're going direct. We're not going to muck around. We're going to go direct to the UK, and this country is supposed to have an upper house, which is what been trying to happen in Waitangi with the Confederation United Tribes of Aotearoa, been trying to put the upper house together, but it hasn't succeeded until now. We can do that and put that in place, and the public of New Zealand can have a hand at that too, this way. And so we all go together on a class action case against the government and necessarily put them out of power, simply by writing to the UK British government, who still holds the Constitution, the 1852 Constitution for this country, and for Australia. So Australia doesn't have a real constitution of its own because it was already issued to the Aboriginal people here, and also that's extended to the indigenous people of Australia too. So that can never be changed once sovereignty was issued in 1835 here, Declaration of Independence flag, under King William IV. So that's proof while we fly that flag all the time at Waitangi on the 28th of October each year in Niati, to celebrate that occasion. So that's the founding document of this country, not the 1840 1902 Navy flag, the Union Jack. That's a on the water flag. It's not a on the land flag. It was issued from a boat. So that's clearly not the original founding document. Once the Westminster issued the sovereignty, Maori had their own sovereignty, and so they just acknowledged that they were the landowners, and so they gave a flag. That's proof and gazetted in Australian papers, and also went through the House of Commons and got the royal assent from King William IV, the male DNA, paternal DNA bloodline. That's the correct history, whakapapa, or genealogy, as far as I'm concerned, with British in Britain, is the male side, not the Queen's side. See, she's run off. She's abandoned her people by signing the Lisbon Treaty on the 19th of June last year. I documented all these events and wrote to the government, telling them before and after she signed just what they were going into. And when she signed, she really relinquished her crown, her sovereignty, and her realms, her head of state for this country and all the Commonwealth. So from that point on, the government here was illegal operating, a government, and fraudulently using their 1986 Constitution. The Jeffrey Palmer, he's in the gun, so I'm going to stick him on a stand. Why they changed my ancestors' chief's constitution with the British. Nothing to do with the government in Wellington. They're only there on contract, and we can sack them and get another contractor. In fact, we can get Bin Laden to come here and run our country if we wanted to, like Hone Harawira was saying. He got more rights than us. Well, rightly so if he's got the money. but that's in the commercial world. So I'm talking about land titles and who owns this country, and the First Nations people still hold a title, and those paper titles you see from land information are only paper occupation titles. They are not the continuation title of our history, and it's wrong and offensive for the government and Chris Finlayson to say to me that I have to prove which pieces of land that I own, or anybody else for that matter. They blasted them off the land with a gun, and now they're trying to say they must prove their continuation of the use of the land. How can they, when they blasted them off the land with a gun? If they had no guns, that wouldn't have happened. But now we don't have guns anymore. We've got technology, and that's changed the face of the earth. So Chris Finlayson is very wrong. He's got no title, and here he is telling me, the mana whenua with the MOAI sitting in Wellington, telling me how high to jump. No, not right, Chris. Got that one wrong. Now you're going to stand first, and I'm going to put you there to tell me which parts of the land you got here first, and prove to me where you came from and why you're here, and how come you got most of the land and the wealth. Where's our bit? Where is the balance in that? And I think your job is on the line with your part in the fraud of these horse traders. Sean Elias, the highest court judge in the land, has just committed a crime she's trying to get out of. She went to England, spent a few days there, weeks, with the Queen. She's just as bad. Now, I want her to explain why she got on her white horse with her word of God and took off and abandoned her own people in Britain. Now she's coming here with her letter to say she owns this place. I want her to come here and stand in front of me and MOAI and bring my MOAI back from her Queen Elizabeth II Great Court, bring my MOAI back here to New Zealand, and then come and stand in front of me on this land and tell me she owns it. What gives her the right to own this land that all these other pigheads in the New Zealand Parliament saying, like Jerry Brownlee, they own the land and the seabed? Now, we're going to have a good test of who they are and which parts of the land they got here first to claim they own, the Crown owns this and that. And who's the Crown? I want to say which one is the Crown so I can sting them some more. But I'll take their name and their photograph that's on Facebook, on Twitter, and around the world. I haven't rebutted any of my affidavits because that's how ignorant they are. Now, the price of ignorance is going to be very high as far as MOAI law is concerned. That's God's pure, unwritten, spoken law. That's the best you can get. And that comes from Raiatea, Taputapu Ate Marae. That's my own Wanoa people that brought that law here. Now you're using it in Parliament. In your New Zealand Parliament, you're using my tikanga Maori law. You're not good enough or clean enough. With all your corruption in there, you just can't do it and get away with it. Not on these lands. And I suggest you go back and look at yourself and go and look at your history and see why you came here in the first place. In 1840, you're telling us to go back to 1840 to prove our continuation of use of land when you've got the whole lot. I think you make good tenants, but I'll sack you out of the place if you can't prove to me your history and which part of the land you got here claiming yours ahead of me, Mr. Jerry Brownlee, before you go and stick a drill into the seabed of my land at the East Cape. I want you and Petrobras, Brazilian company, to show me where your title is, to go ahead of me and MOAI and all my people down the East Coast and start drilling. What cheek do you have as a